My mom lives in a small, not a small, a very large community in Florida called the Villages. It's a wonderful retirement community, and there's lots of activities to do there. And I would go and visit my mom like once a year there. And uh, and so on one of the visits, we were there doing what we normally would do. She's very active, so she goes to the foreign film club, she plays bridge, and she does all these things and drags me along with her, which is kind of tough at times because I just don't have the same energy as she does. But I enjoy accompanying her, and she likes to show me off to all of her friends and stuff. Oh, he's my son, and comes to visit me, like those kind of things. And so I really do enjoy our time together. But once in a while, I do sneak away. And at the time, they had this place called the Village Brewery, and they actually sold $1 beers. So I'd go there and I'd get my money's worth. And so I really did enjoy it. But when it was time to leave, I said my goodbyes to my mom and headed over to the Orlando airport. And things usually go smoothly there unless there's weather. Sometimes they have thunderstorms and it like delays everything. And the airport I was flying into, they don't accept flights late at night. It's on Long Island. And so you have to make it on time or else the flight's going to be canceled. And so I was getting nervous because it was getting late and I wasn't sure the flight was going to make it. But then all of a sudden it was great. They announced the plane was boarding. So I was like, I was so thrilled to finally be on the plane. And so we get to boarding. I go to sit down in my seat, and right next to me there is this Hispanic lady, and she's clutching a rosary, and she's praying to herself in Spanish, and she looks really nervous and really upset. And I really didn't want this. It wasn't that I was uncaring, and perhaps I not wasn't as emotionally and spiritually evolved as I like to think I am now. So I just wanted this to stop. And I looked around for another seat, and there just wasn't any. The plane was packed, and so I finally decided just to sit next to her. And so I sat next to her. I settled down, and she was going at it pretty heavy, and I kind of felt bad for her, but I just didn't want any of this right now. So I kind of put my earbuds in and closed my eyes and tried to get a little bit of rest on the plane. You fall asleep, you wake up in New York, it's great. But what happened was is that all of a sudden, when the cargo doors shut, it made a loud clank, and the lady yelped. She made a loud sound, and she started praying loudly, and she started shaking, and I could see there were tears going in her eyes. And I just didn't want the authorities to like get medical help on the plane and get us all off and delay it. I I I don't know. I just had to do something. And so I reached over and I took her hand in mine, and she kind of looked at me, and I expected her to be appreciative, but she kind of looked frightened, like she thought I was, you know, being that way. And and I didn't know what to say to her. And I just it just slipped out. I said, "It's okay. Jesus sent me." I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a bolt of lightning came through the plane right that second and struck me dead. Because at best, I was an agnostic, a Christmas and Easter Catholic. That's what I was. And this lady was an obviously devout lady. And she was a religious lady. And she was really suffering. And all I did was lie to her. I just wanted her to be quiet. I didn't want things to get out of hand. And then what happened is that she settled down and the shaking had stopped. And she wasn't praying anymore, but she still looked kind of nervous, but she kind of held my hands back. And I was starting to think things would be okay now. And so I just took a deep breath, but I could kind of feel some tension building because as soon as the plane's engine started to roar up and we started to move, all of a sudden she started in again. And this time she was shaking so much I could feel it through my seat. And I didn't know what to do because like I told this lady Jesus sent me. I was holding her hand now. And like I owned this. There's no like walking away from this. I couldn't get up even if there was another seat. I had to deal with this somehow and I just wasn't sure. And I was just at my wits' end. So finally I said to her, "Do you have any grandchildren?" Well, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down because boy did she ever. She would start telling me about Maria and George, and that's why she was on the plane. They were getting married, and she was flying to New York to be part of the wedding. And wow, and she told me that this was the first time on a plane, and she didn't like flying at all. I mean, she may not have liked flying, but she certainly loved to talk because she went on and on. She told me that Maria and George are getting married, and and she said that George's real name is Jorge, and that he doesn't use his given name, and she doesn't know why, and that seems very strange to her. And what's more is that Maria makes more money than George, and that's even more strange. But she also said in the same breath that she understands times are different now and that Maria and George are in love and they're going to be happy. So she's not going to be judgmental. And then she went on to tell me this story about how she came to the United States by boat in the late 1970s from Cuba. And the way she describes it, it was more like a raft. And she was a young lady then, and she didn't know what was in store for her, but she knew that she had to get out of that place, that she wanted her children and grandchildren to have opportunities that she never had. And she said that, you know, she's so grateful for this opportunity, and people, there's beauty all around us, and all we have to do is open up our eyes, and we would see the beauty and the love all around us. And that if you keep positive thoughts in your heart, you will be able to find peace and love in this world. And what's more is love is to be the type of person who can love, but even more important, to be the type of person who someone else could love. These are all the things that she learned. And she just kept on going on and on about how she built a life for herself and her children here in America. And now she has the opportunity to go to her her grandchildren's wedding. And she just kept on and on. And as I started to look at her, I just started to realize so much about her, that she had been through so much in her life, and a lot of things that people would be sour about. But she wasn't soured one bit. She was happy. She was wise. She was appreciative and grateful for all the things that she has in her life now. And except for the airplane, she didn't like that at all. So finally, and it was amazing because like we're flying through the air. The didn't phase her when we took off. It didn't phase her, when the bell rings to let you know you could walk around the cabin. It didn't phase her when we were landing and we had to sit back in our seats. And even when we landed, the wheels made a little screech as you hit the ground. She just, I don't know, she just didn't seem to notice it. She just kept on talking. And, I developed a real love for this lady and a respect for her. I mean, really, it taught me a lot about things. And so when we go to get off the plane, of course, she can't reach the overhead compartment. So I had to get her luggage down, and I wasn't going to give it to her. I just had my backpack. So I carried her luggage off the plane. And so I'm walking with her, and we're leaving the terminal, getting down to where the baggage claim is. And all of a sudden, I see this gaggle of people, and they're all shouting, "Grandma, Grandma!" And I knew immediately it was her. It was her family, and of course, Maria and George were at the head of it, and they were all carrying it on, making a scene. But it was delightful. But I took her aside. I said I wanted to say goodbye now to her because I didn't want to interfere, and she objected, but I insisted, and I was really feeling bad about the Jesus thing. And so I felt like I had to fess up to her. And so I put the bags down and I looked at her eyes and I had to say it quick. And I said, "I have to tell you something. I lied. Jesus didn't send me." And I got the strangest reaction. She like looked up at the ceiling and clapped both her hands and started to laugh. And I said, "No, no, you don't understand. You know, you were just making so much noise and I didn't want people to come and stop the plane. I just wanted you to shut up." And she just laughed a little bit more. And I told her, I said, "I'm not even religious." And she just didn't face her a bit. And she like looked at me with this all knowing and wise gaze. And she reached up with her hands and put it both on my cheeks and pulled me down and kissed my forehead and looked me square in the eyes. And she said, "The only person you misled was yourself." And I objected again, and she said, "No, no." She says, "Sometimes Jesus chooses the most unlikely of servants." And once again, Jesus chose wisely. And I don't know, it just kind of like echoed in my mind for a while what she said. And then so she picked up her bags and she started to walk to her family. And they all greeted her. And then finally they were ready to go. And I just stood there watching them in awe. And then she quietly turned to me and looked at me. And before she left, she mouthed the words, "Thank you." And I kept on thinking about what she had said about sometimes Jesus chooses the most unlikely of servants. And once again, Jesus chose wisely. I'm not sure I believed her then, and maybe not now either. But I got on that plane and I learned such a valuable lesson in life from this frightened woman. It was the most unexpected experience from the most unexpected of sources, and it was really something that changed my life. And so, perhaps, maybe, Jesus chose us both wisely.